On this Star Trek universe, we're reviewing Lower Decks 406, Parth Ferengi's Heart Place, and that final very short track right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where we sit around and chat about Star Trek, even when it's a very short trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Roberson.
And before we get to Lower Decks, let's do a brief little chat about this last of the very short treks, you say?
Thank Christ, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't dislike it as much as I've disliked most of them. So, there's that. And it did seem like so they do a whole little 60s inspired song in this one. And I did think that felt like it was a big love letter to the series, like all those different clips they used as the dancing, and they'd use different clips from all the different episodes of the animated series. At least I'm assuming that's what that was. I've never seen the animated series, so at least not the whole thing. You haven't? I've seen episodes, but I haven't seen the whole thing or anything. So there were a lot of clips I didn't recognize. So I assumed that was what that was when they were doing all those clips, and they're like using the frames back and forth to make it look like the different characters were dancing.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
Yeah, that's fun. It seemed like they were, highlighting some cool things that they'd done with the animation. So it seemed like the most of all these episodes, it felt like the most tribute to the old, the 50 years of Trek animation. And it was just kind of like obviously meta with like them actually just talking as if they're on a show, they're fully Deadpooling out basically.
Oh yeah, it wasn't terrible. This was my second favorite one, probably.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one was probably Holograms All the Way Down.
Yeah.
Still didn't like that one, but whatever.
Yeah, they're not. This was not my favorite series, of course. This is hey, if we have to rank all the series, now I know what's on my bottom.
That's it.
That's it. Like it's always things jockeying back in my brain. Like maybe I like this worse. Nope. This is it. This is the worst thing I think Star Trek's ever put out. But it wasn't a big time commitment. It was just a little thing. So whatever.
Yeah.
Fun for some. Some people probably really enjoyed it.
Yeah. When I'm on my deathbed though, I'm gonna be going. I wish I had that 10 minutes back.
So many other 10 minutes you'd wish back, man. Nope. Just that. That's the only 10 minutes. All right. Well, let's get into Lower Decks. Ferengi's, man. Rom.
Yeah, I loved it.
I did too. Really good episode. Just great to see Rom. The amount of world building they're allowing them to do on this show is pretty cool, with them actually traveling through Ferenginar and seeing more about their culture. Man, when Boimler sits down, he's like, commercials? What is this? I was like, oh, I know where this is going. This is exactly my reaction. Actually, weirdly, I have that reaction to commercials because they're so flashy and designed to keep your attention. But since I don't really watch commercials on anything anymore, when I'm in a bar or a restaurant and they've got commercials on, my brain is not accustomed. I haven't built up the immunity to those commercials like I used to have. And so my brain, my ADHD cannot help but just stare at the commercials and I can't focus.
Yeah, I have the lowest tier on all of the streamers, so I see commercials all the time.
Yeah.
And we just mute them.
Luckily, I could, yeah. I do choose to take that $2 or $3 extra a month to get rid of the commercials on most things.
Must be nice.
Yes, it is.
Mr. High Roller.
Such a high roller.
Yeah, so this is maybe one of the most seen I've ever felt from Star Trek. Is just Boimler intending to do a bunch of stuff and then sitting down in front of a screen and staying there for 10 hours.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, and it's funny that this dropped this day. I just had a day yesterday that I just felt terrible about. It was one of those days where I had Sunday, I had off, but I had just a bunch of shit that I needed to catch up on. A lot of podcast work and music work that I just needed to churn through and like knock a lot of stuff off my to-do list, and so I spent the entire day intending to do that and letting myself get distracted on a bunch of other house tasks and stuff, and just like didn't do anything. And what sucks is if I just at the beginning of the day said, I'm going to take the day off today, then yesterday would have been one of the most relaxing days of my year. If I just said that out loud. But since the entire day I was stressing about not doing the stuff I wanted to do, it was a terrible day. Just terrible. I just felt awful at the end.
Yeah.
I gotta start like taking breaks on purpose.
I don't allow myself to do that. I'm just not going to do anything today, because when I do that, I self-loathe and feel so much guilt that I can't enjoy it anyway. So even though I accomplish very little most days, at least I know I tried somewhere in my brain.
Yeah. I find that when I take those days off, I never do. I so rarely do. It's like maybe twice a year where I'm like, I'm going to intentionally do nothing. Like, I'm going to intentionally take a vacation day or whatever. I find when I do that, the next few weeks are more productive. Like, I just need you just need a day to recharge. And I just find that like if I actually tell myself that's what I'm doing, like I'm intentionally recharging, this isn't wasteful. I'm just intentionally having a day off. Like, I do find it very useful for me. I just don't ever do it because I always feel like, no, I can't do that. I've got things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely felt where he was coming from in this, even though he's not that guy. He's the guy who actually does get stuff done. He's just distracted by modern television.
But yeah, I loved it. And I loved that. I loved the progression of Mariner's storyline. Getting a little closer to figuring out why exactly she is the way she is, not wanting to progress and rank, and not wanting to commit to more responsibility or whatever it is, whatever issue it is that she's having.
And that's the thing. They kind of named it this episode. He's like, you need to figure out what's eating you up inside. Mm-hmm. So like, we've never really known that there's going to be an answer to that. It just seemed like this was her personality to sort of self-destruct and sort of this amorphous thing. And it seems like with her close friends saying that, it sort of like means there is something. And she's gonna discover it. Like it's gonna be an actual solution to this problem, and not it's just solution, but like an answer to the why of Mariner. And I think that's a really interesting turn for the series, a turn for her character.
I can't help but wonder if part of the reason she is the way she is because if she doesn't want to get higher up in rank, she doesn't want to follow in her mother's footsteps, because while her parents are married, they are also separate, and they never see each other, and they're ostensibly alone. And taking on greater duty means always being alone.
Yeah, she's very much wanted to stay in the lower decks and
with her friends,
and wanted her friends to stay in the lower decks, and so it has been that is definitely part of the story. So yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think that it might have something to do with her mother and father and being in the higher ups. You may have hit it down the nail on the head. I like that interpretation, but she has other issues with her mom too about, she has these ideals that her mom doesn't live up to, and I wonder if she was worried about like getting higher in rank and losing her ideals, losing herself in it,
sure.
So there's a lot to explore there, and I mean it could be as simple as she doesn't want to become her mom, and then the resolution to that could be like maybe she realizes her mom's not the worst thing to become, maybe her mom's maybe she learns her mom's actually having a great effect on like towards the ideals that Mariner fights for, even though she's fighting within the system or something. There could be ways to explore that well. Yeah. It's cool, man. I dig that they're having such complex work with her.
Yeah.
What about Tendi and Rutherford? Oh man,
I know it. There seems to be more inclination that there's something brewing between them. They're not emotionally and mentally ready to explore that yet, but it was clear that they have some sort of romantic feelings for each other.
Yeah. It's interesting that they noted this is the statistically horniest ship.
And it was funny because, like, I've seen so many people online, like, finally, this episode put an end to the Tendy Rutherford ship. Like, no one will, they, definitively said that they are just friends in this episode. And I'm like, what episode did you guys watch?
What are you talking about? Especially the way it ended with them like, we are just friends. Now climb on top of me inside this tube. Yes, this feels right.
Not even with that ending, the whole episode, they're like saying like very complimentary things, like proving that they're like into each other and like blushing. People don't do that if they're just friends.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's just clear as day that they're like, something's up there for sure. This episode, I can't believe people are saying that online. That's crazy.
Yeah, it feels like thematically, along with Boimler and Mariner, is like part of their story. Like, it's all Arrested Development shit. Like, none of them want to move on. None of them want to get higher in rank because they think they can't, like, hang out with each other anymore.
I don't think that's everybody. I think that's Rutherford, and that might be Mariner, but that's not Tendy or Boimler. They both want to climb. But
they're scared of it.
Oh, yeah. But I think that's just, like, this show is about the lower decks, and I think in general it's scary to progress, and you've got to deal with like what's the next step, the uncomfortable nature of progression and the uncomfortable nature of like trying something you haven't done before and having responsibilities you haven't done before. And I just think that's a universal story, so it makes sense that they're all experiencing that, but it does seem like particularly Rutherford and Mariner are trying. Rutherford for sure and Mariner possibly are trying to arrest their development to be able to stay around their people.
Well, we know Rutherford actively turned down several promotions.
Yeah, exactly.
So that he could not hang out with because he thought he couldn't hang out with his friends anymore.
Very confirmed in his case. I really loved just some of the lines, like Rutherford saying, "We were married at a wedding." And they're talking. I love that. I love the whole concept of that restaurant. It's just like really pushing them, and it's just a complete joke. Like the idea that this completely contrived scenario where they're just like forced to admit they like each other. Here, sit in these chairs, tell each other things you find attractive about each other. The chairs can tell us if you're lying.
Yeah. So everything they said in those chairs, they weren't lies.
Yeah, but if you notice, those things they said in their chairs were very tame. I like your hair. I also like your hair. Like they were. They're true. Yeah. They kept it really tame. So yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. And he said, "Go publicly display that affection."
Yeah, I liked several lines in the episode. And before we get deeper into lines and quotes and stuff, and just, dude, Rom and Leeta.
Oh, yeah. It was the actors, correct?
Yeah, it was them.
Okay. And I know that Rom was playing dumb throughout the episode, and it's revealed at the end that he's competent, but like, man, for the first like 20 minutes, I was like, is this all they're going to do with this character? It feels really, like I know he's partially playing them and she's sort of like the actual negotiator and he's playing a role, but like I don't know, just him the whole time being like, I like baseball. Like it just was it was funny but weird for Rom. I don't know, because he was dumb. He wasn't really that dumb in DS9. He was
he was pretty dumb
at times, especially early on. They later just made him sort of like a downtrodden character, not really dumb, but just downtrodden. Like toward the very beginning, I think they played him more as dumb.
Yeah, later on, I think it was like he had good ideas and Leeta had the brains to like execute them. But I don't know. There's a line in there where he goes, they're like, "No, Mr. Grand Nagus," and he goes, "Just Nagus." He's like, "Sorry, Nagus," and he goes, "Grand." That was so wrong. Like,
yeah, you're right. That was pretty wrong. he felt a different level of dumb than Rom normally feels, at least for the last half of DS9. I don't know. I think toward the beginning he's a little more of a caricature in DS9, but he gets fleshed out a lot.
At the beginning of DS9, Rom was like, didn't even seem like Rom. He was just like a really angry, grouchy, somewhat racist Ferengi.
Yeah. I vaguely remember that.
Who doesn't want dog hanging out with that human?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And then he just gets more and more and more dumb. And then it kind of turns where it's like, he's really just been under heel work all these years.
Yeah. What do you think of the Ferengi joining the Federation inside of Lower Decks? Like, they're really letting them take big swings at the expansion of canon here with not just the exploration of Ferenginar, but like actually taking the step of bringing them into the Federation right here.
I love it because I don't feel like almost feel like if they had presented, like, this was a perfect way for them to get into the Federation. If there was going to be a Ferengi Grand Nagus, if there was going to be a Nagus who really wanted us to get into the or wanted them to get into the Federation, it would be Rom.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Rom's working on all these, like, in the last episodes when he becomes Grand Nagus, he is working on like reforms to their society and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting the balance they strike here at the very end, where it's revealed he's really playing the act, because he says, I want us to be a part of this great society, but we can't be there if our people think you're all suckers. So I'm glad you tricked us. Like, it's really, it's like, yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, that was perfect, but I don't see it working as well in any other kind of show.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I could totally see the very similar sort of plot line. It wouldn't be the same exact thing. Rom probably wouldn't be played as dumb, and like there'd be some differences, but like I could totally see that same type of thing in a tone similar to like Strange New Worlds or even DS9 episodes that are very similar in tone to that. Yeah. But it's good. I like it, and I just think it's cool that they're letting Lower Decks do the like big swings. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice to be able to go back in animation and pretend that they're not like way older than they are supposed to be here. Because it's not that far from DS9.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
This is happening. So like, it's been a lot longer in real life than it has on
Sure. I really loved Landlord Cops. Oh man, so good.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I loved it because, like, I don't know, I listened to a good bit of like, leftist content online, like people talking about the like sort of anti-capitalist things, which is not my whole bag, but like I listen to a lot of them talk. And different political streamers and stuff, and it's just really funny because that's like the landlord is like, and this goes back to like reading Marx and stuff. The idea of a landlord and like rent seeking is like the whole, like it's an encapsulation of the entire problem of capitalism. It's like, and I love that they like made them like in our world, we have this sort of like cops are heroes in our stories because it like furthers the narrative we want to see in the world of like justice and all of that, and like a society that's working and a just society, and it like makes us like to believe we live there. It's just really funny that like in their world they're like justice seeking heroes are landlords. It's wonderful. It's such a good idea. Loved it.
My favorite part of Ferengi culture was the Dominion War memorial, where instead of names, they're showing lost prophets. Yes.
Oh man, it's good. She said, "You Ferengis just really stay on brand."
What Mariner says about Ferenginar, it's like what heaven would look like if God was stupid.
I like the ceremonial invoice. Ceremonial bust of, oh, what a likeness. And here is the ceremonial invoice.
Yep.
So good. I'm just trying to enjoy a quiet night with my biker gang.
Mm-hmm.
What a great line.
That was a good line. Indeed. So, did you enjoy the stem bolt?
I missed the stem bolt.
At the very beginning, Mariner is weathering a stem bolt.
Nice.
And they say, Mariner, geez, you've been weathering that stem bolt for so long, it probably can't even self-seal anymore.
No, I totally missed that. That's funny. Love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Something I gotta concede to you. We have talked about the stuff at the beginning of the episodes and why that thing is attacking or whatever, and you were suspecting that it might have something to do with mutineers, because in 2 of the 3 or 4 we've seen so far, there were mutineers in the episode, in the lower decks, and this again, and the other 2, I was kind of like making the case that like, well, maybe, but like, it seems like that also is just way the Romulans and Klingon cultures might work, and that's just kind of them making those broad generalizations about Romulans and Klingons. But then here, Ferengis, which they're not as known for that sort of treachery and like, I mean, they're known for like financial treachery, but not the kind that we saw there. So I think that was I think that supports your theory that maybe this thing that is attacking people is attacking some sort of like something to do with the lower decks being mutineers, which is interesting and weird. I dig it.
Mm-hmm. And maybe because these everyone's so afraid to grow on our ship, they're doing a mutiny against themselves. Against their own self, their own best interests or something.
Yeah, man. Maybe so.
I don't know.
Maybe so. Oh, man. But overall, great episode. And I just only positive things to say. I think some degree, these very short treks are so bad, they're making me appreciate lower decks even more.
Yeah. Even Miglimo.
Oh, yeah. I've always liked Miglimo. I have such affection for Paul Tompkins, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure he played one of the Ferengis again in the beginning of the episode. He played the mutinous Ferengi at the beginning.
Yeah. I'm just getting, I've always liked him too. I'm just getting ahead of Stu, because Stu did leave us some feedback, and he always complains when it's Miglimo, so.
I had no idea they were married, or that they were in love with me.
Don't break up because of me.
Ooh, you don't have to vomit in my mouth twice.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear the feedback.
Okay, we got Tim Castillo. Says, "What's up, guys? I'll get right to it. This season is really bringing it for me, fellas. I like it. I really liked the Deep Space Nine episode last season. I don't think of it as a bad episode by any means, but compared to how we picked up those characters and the station's story, I felt like this episode was a much better continuation to the stories of Rom and Leeta and the Ferengis as a whole. Mm-hmm. This felt more natural to me, more of breathing life into the universe of Star Trek rather than pointing at it like fans looking through a window pane. I think the creators are just getting better at figuring out the puzzle of this show. It's really what it comes down to. I have a theory that is almost definitely not going to pan out, but I like it, and I think it could legitimately be great. We keep seeing the Death Beam ship blowing ships away all season, and are thinking it will lead to some big episode or arc this season. But I would like to posit that maybe the last episode would have nothing to do with that, and the last scene of the season is the Cerritos encountering that ship and then getting shot by the beam. Then we find out whatever happens in the next season. In any other series, I would be incredibly annoyed at that, but because of the parody nature of the show, I really feel like it could work. I feel like it's the opposite of a lot of series, not just Trek, where there's a huge single story arc through the whole season and then it gets wrapped up, maybe not so neatly, in the last episode. Instead, this would have a huge season B plot, and then it is not resolved at all. Rule of acquisition number 7. Humans, keep your ears open. I really hope they don't do that. I would not enjoy that at all.
I see what Tim is saying. I think like,
oh sure,
if they hung a lantern on it, they could make it funny. And like if they made it funny enough, I would be resigned to be fine with it. You know what I mean? Like if it's really funny and handled well, like don't you hate these kinds of cliffhangers? That sort of a feeling. Like we'd all be like, yes, why did you do this? But yeah, I in general I would like to know.
Yeah, I think I don't care how funny they make it. I don't want to have to wait a year for that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Absolutely not.
I hear you.
And Sue sends us one. Isn't it romantic? Hello. Come on, get on with it. My feelings with this mystery ship plot. Rom and Leeta, of course. Boo! Just let two people of the opposite sex just be really good friends for once in media, damn it. If you want to pair people up, then I would suggest Boimler and Tendi instead. Boo. Nope. No.
Yeah, I
don't see the chemistry.
I think that Rutherford and Tendi have way more chemistry there. And I mean, I think we do have a male-female relationship on this show with Boimler and Mariner. I don't really see romantic overtones there.
I don't see anything with them.
Yeah. I mean, even with I'm trying to think of other characters that are a little more like just friends. I mean, there's plenty of crew in Star Trek that are just friends. But because they're crewmates, you know what I mean? These being lower decks gives them the opportunity to fraternize a little bit more. But they're, I think we've got an example with Boimler and Mariner that they're not doing. It's not like they're doing that with every character. I think that Tendi and Ruthie have a nice little chemistry.
Agreed. Stu continues. Landlord cops. Love it. I mean, I love the concept for comedy, not as a possible real thing.
Yeah, same.
How are their tariffs as part of a contract to joining the Federation if the Federation doesn't use money? Opening up that can of worms again. You can just open it up somewhere else. I'm not answering that. Because I don't know. They've always been iffy about money. Stu continues, if you think about it, a library turned gambling den would still have a lot of books. That's fair.
Good joke there.
That's fair.
I like it.
Yeah. First landlord cops, now restaurateur cops. Yes, you do drop the N for some reason. Charging people with couple discount fraud.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like this episode was written by someone who reads a lot of leftist stuff, because that's also often talked about. If you have a completely capitalist, unregulated capitalist society, you basically just have you have feudalism. Whoever has the most force wins the day, because there's not a structure to protect business. So whoever has the most power is going to win. So yeah, it would make sense in this capitalist society for there to be landlord cops and restaurateur cops, and they all have to have their own enforcement mechanisms. It's really funny.
Stu says, okay, an actual decent use of Miglimoo that didn't rely, Miglimo, however you say it, that didn't rely on bird-based jokes for once, but still had to put one in.
I loved that one, though. It's such a good bird-based joke. Oh, man.
I still want Ta'ana to eat him at some point, though. I'm okay with that, too.
Yeah.
But, as a rebound, she and Shax should break up, and then, Shax walk in on her and Miglimoo and be like, no!
And
I don't know.
She spits feathers out. There's feathers in her hairball for some reason.
Yeah. No, I like the idea of her coughing up a hairball and it's full of feathers, and he's like, oh my god. And Miglimoo pops out and goes, it wasn't as painful as it appears. Yeah. Nobody wants me writing things. He says, that's 3 episodes straight with Boimler in a minimal B-plot. I wonder if Jack Quaid's availability this season was affected by The Boys and my adventures with Superman. Maybe, or maybe they just thought, hey, we're dealing so much with Boimler and Mariner, maybe we should put focus on other people for once.
Yeah, I do think that shows like this tend to do that as the seasons go on. You know, a lot of like kind of four-hander type shows will do that exact thing where it's like, oh, hey, it's about these 2 characters. They're the main characters, and then by season 4, you're doing like full Troy and Abed plot lines. You know.
Yep. Stu says another good episode with some welcome revisitation of the Ferengi and a few familiar characters. Perhaps they could have had a little bit in there covering how the Ferengi were adapting to be more socialist under Rom, but the depiction of their extremely capitalist ways was great. Mariner being told she needs to get over her rebellious instinct was good, and I agree with it. I'm starting to think the fan theory that there has to be some tragic incident in her past that explains it might be onto something. She was a more by-the-book officer, but doing something the textbook way led to people getting hurt or dying, and maybe she's partially punishing herself for it. As for Tindy and Rutherford, look, I don't deny they would make a cute couple. I just feel like it's such an unnecessary thing in a lot of media I watch now, where 2 opposite gender characters being good friends is always a prelude to them being romantic, but it also ends up overtaking their whole storylines and often even the show in general. I don't mind Jake and Amy getting together in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I didn't like how later seasons were so invested in their domestic life. And I felt that focusing on the other married characters' relationships with their civilian spouses would have been more interesting. I'm the rare person who preferred Fitzsimmons on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as friends and co-workers, and I couldn't stand how angsty and melodramatic them being paired up made everything about their lives. Can't disagree with more. I love them together.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't disagree more. Like, I understand the pushback on shoving romantic plots where they don't belong, because I think like a lot of movies do that. You know, like every movie has to have a romantic subplot, and you got an hour and a half to tell a story, and like the idea that you need a romance is stupid. And especially when it's like, a bomb's going to destroy the world in 48 hours. You better defuse it and also fall in love. Like, this is just kind of overdone and stupid. But when you have a long-running series and your characters interact romantically, that's just how life works. When you got 48 hours of television in over a couple of seasons, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, those are going to like develop, they're going to develop romantic plotlines because that's life. Like, and I just think people overreact to this kind of combination too much. Because I think they're just super cute. I don't see a problem.
No, I got no issues. Stu says, and then there's the other side of this, where this stuff being the norm has created the expectation and even obnoxious demand for it to happen from shippers. Sorry, I just didn't see the Supercorp thing between Kara and Lena and Supergirl, and the queer baiting accusations made me roll my eyes. I agree. The shippers did it themselves on that one. Like,
I haven't seen that.
The cast, the crew, everyone kept saying, they're not going to get together. They're friends. Mm-hmm. And then up to the last episode and far after, people were screaming about it. And also, like, that is like, Supergirl is one of the... without any note of disparaging, that is like one of the queerest shows that has ever happened. Like, almost everyone on that show was gay. Like, for the shippers to say that, I mean, no, that's just stupid. I'm sorry, one couple wasn't gay on Supergirl. That's not queer baiting. That's you guys wanting a thing. And it not happening.
I like I said, hadn't seen it. I don't even know who those characters are.
Is Kara and Supergirl and Lena Luthor.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like a weird combo anyway, but I don't know anything about Lena Luthor, but I assume she's sort of standing for Lex of some sort.
Not really. They've always been friends on the show for the most part, except for like a half of a season where Lena was mad at her for hiding her secret identity for a while.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, mostly Lena has been like, I want to reverse the things that my family did.
Okay. So she's generally a positive character then.
Yeah.
Cool.
Generally, yes. So, Stu says, a lot of shipping logic seems to be, quote, these characters are decent and nice to each other and like each other's company. They must want to bang.
In my experience, yeah. That's how life works.
Yep. I will say the way this subplot played out, though, leaves plenty of room to interpret Tendi and Rutherford's discomfort being because they are simply friends, and being pushed towards romance makes them feel genuinely weirded out. Because what reason would they have to not pursue it otherwise? We've at least seen Rutherford pursue romance with others in the show before. I can't recall if Tendi has, except with Scotty this week, which doesn't count. It could also be the other way, that I'm not sure the shippers are going with right now, but time might have to tell on that one. Finally, come on now, get to the fireworks factory with this mystery ship thing. I'm predicting we're going to see 2 of our main cast in a shuttle get destroyed by this thing, and the other 2 will find evidence they weren't actually killed and go after them on a rescue mission. Yep.
Possibly.
I totally see it.
I could see that, but I think it's more likely that the ship would get destroyed and the 2 of them maybe be in a shuttle or something, because we need, I think, to maintain the track it's been on, we need like a lower decks crew on a ship, apparently planning a mutiny of some sort. So like
I said, man, there is some mutiny against their own self-interest.
Maybe that's pretty esoteric for like a show that so far has been very on the face of it. I don't know.
Maybe.
But anyway, yeah. Thanks, Stu, for the feedback. Yeah, I generally, I think that Rutherford and Tendi just have chemistry, and I think it's totally fitting if they want to have a relationship. I don't think they have to be forever loves. Like, I think they could be. It could be, there's just a forever love kind of situation, or it could be they date and then, like, they don't anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I could totally see it going either way.
Yeah.
But I don't, I don't think there's an issue with them dating or any kind of, like it just doesn't a problem for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I would also be okay with them both being, I don't know, asexual or something, but still finding like romantic love with each other outside of sexuality or something, you know?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Like that would be an interesting bit of representation that we don't see often.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's a thing. And like finding your partner, if that is your way your sexuality works, and finding your partner is an important thing, and like that would be really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of good with it anyway. But I just feel like they have a lot of chemistry, and it seems like it's pretty, like when they showed those chocolate, sexy versions of themselves, I just feel like this is just very traditional, like friends that have a thing for each other and like are shy about it. And yes, it's easy to like want to date the people around the ship that you don't really care about, but it's just a different kind of relationship. When you start dating such a close friend, it's like, it's automatically serious. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a fun thing. It's like a big deal. And I can definitely see how Rutherford would be scared of that. And so would Tendi.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to lose their friend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's that part of it. And there's just like the fear of commitment and like the fear of moving into a very important, big relationship in your life. It's just, there's a lot of weird emotions mixed up in that sort of jumping. It's like you jump from like whatever, you jump far into the relationship. I was trying to think of a sports analogy and I couldn't. That's how bad I am at sports. Like I was like, you jump into, in the game when it's like you're on a third base. No, that's the thing where you're touching genitals.
50-yard line. No, I'm not sure that tracks.
You're starting on the 50-yard line, and with the kick thing. The kick, they short kicked or something. I don't know.
You're short kicking all the way to the hoop, and
don't touch it with your hands.
And that's par. And hole in one.
All right. Well, fun time, man. Good to chat with you about Star Trek today.
Yeah, man.
As always.
Likewise.
I'm going to I guess I'm going to get off of here and go edit this and another podcast.
Yeah.
And it's late at night, so I'm going to go start that process.
Get it done. Get her done, man.
Oh, you know it.
Mm-hmm. Tasty nips.
You don't have to vomit in my mouth twice. Joel Untrue.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.